Thank you all for coming.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Good to see you all. What we'll do is tonight we'll begin with verses 2 and 3 because they're grouped together. Verses 2 and 3 carrying on from the invocation and mantra 1, and they're discussing the perfect relationship between the Lord, living entities, and his creation. So we're going to hear about the continuing theme of how Krishna himself, the living entities, and his creation all come together, how they all interrelate. So does anyone remember anything from the previous verses?
I just read it before.
Invocation.
We only did the I and
Invocation of mantra 1. Does anyone remember?
The whole, the absolute whole is Sri Krishna, and that all the parts of the absolute whole, such as the material world, is whole, and we as the jivas can also be whole and absorbed in the Krishna consciousness.
Yeah, very good. Very good.
And also
Yeah.
there's three things that are whole.
Yeah.
It's Krishna,
Yeah.
the phenomenal world,
Yeah.
and form of life and bhakti.
Yeah, very good. So the first verse is discussing the concept of purna, completeness of the living entity, the material manifestation, and Krishna himself. The second verse is discussing the Ishavasha principle, which means how do we relate to this material energy? In other words, how do we deal with the material energy? We have to understand that everything belongs to Krishna. And how much do we have?
I mean, how much do we have?
Our share.
What's that?
Our share.
Our share, yeah, or our quota.
Yeah, yeah.
Quota, yeah, our share. So we only have our quota, and then everything else belongs to Krishna. Krishna just gives us a quota to keep our body and soul together. Now, tonight, we'll read verse 2 and verse 3, and we'll hear the continuation of this theme.
Say, sorry, that this theme is for 2 and 3.
It's basically it's carrying on from the last two verses, the perfect relationship between the Lord, the living entities, and his creation, how it all interrelates. Okay, so tonight, verse 2. Kovanne vehakamani jidvi sech chatam sammaha evam tvayi nanyate tosti nakama lipyate nare. One may aspire to live for hundreds of years if he continuously goes on working in that way. For that sort of work will not bind him to the law of karma. There is no alternative to this way for man. So here we're hearing about action, how we should act in this world. What is the proper way to act in this world? So Prabhupada in this verse, in his purport, he's going to connect us to some interesting concepts in terms of work or acting in this world. So there'll be some terms which will come up which you may be familiar with, or maybe new to you. So we'll discuss that as we go. So Prabhupada says in the first paragraph, the living entity has to work for his livelihood because that is the law of material nature. And if he does not act according to his prescribed duties, he transgresses the laws of nature and binds himself more and more to the cycle of birth and death. So Prabhupada's first point is we have to work in this material world, or we can say act. This is karma. Karma means activity. You have to work. You have to be active. Krishna says in the beginning of the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, you have to be active. You can't stop acting for a moment. So we have to work in this world. We have to be active. However, Prabhupada says that we need to perform our prescribed duties, otherwise we transgress the laws of nature. Angelina's here. Very good. Were you at Julian Yatra or? No. Okay. Oh, you're at your dance class. Okay, good. So we have to act according to prescribed duties, otherwise we transgress the laws of nature. So prescribed duties means there has to be regulation in activity. We can't act any way we want, right? That's unregulated. I mean, of course we can do that, but you see the result. Everyone just does what they want. You know, there are many songs like this in the 1970s. Do what you want to do, be what you want to be. Yeah, right? That's just one that comes to mind. You've heard that one, yeah. Yeah.
Be what you want to be, and I don't like what I see.
Yeah.
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 So we have all these different songs which came out, especially in the 1970s. Many of them have deep meanings, actually. You can do whatever you want to do, and you can be whatever you want to be, but you have to live with the consequences of that, right? Whereas in the Vedic system, human beings are meant to be regulated. In other words, there's prescribed activity. You get it, Prabhupada explains, it's like you get a license. When you get a car, they give you a license. You can't just drive it any way you want. Which side of the road you do? On the right, opposite to us? Yeah, opposite, yeah. So you can't just come to Australia and say, well, in my country, we do like this, I'll do whatever I want. Hey, you can do that. But, someone will chase you eventually. Sooner or later, someone will try to catch you. Yeah. Yeah, if they don't get you, there'll be a citizen's arrest.
I've seen someone into coming the wrong way near spotlight. No one arrests them, but
just be very wary. There's a lot of Chinese around at the moment.
Yeah.
Today.
Yeah, be very careful in this area because people can do that. So when you're given a car, you're given a license. You can't just drive the car any way you want. I mean, you can do that if you want to do that, but, there will be limitations placed on you at some point in time. So in the Vedic system, it says that when you become a human being, there are regulations. In other words, you have to act within parameters. Why? Because that will lead to liberation. If you control what you do in this body, in this life, that will lead to a life where there is complete freedom. Krishna speaks in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. He speaks about the principles of freedom, right? And this is God himself speaking to us. He says, if you follow certain principles, it will lead you to freedom.
Isn't it the regulative principles?
Yeah.
Weren't they originally called the regulative principles of freedom?
Yeah. Yeah, the regulative principles of freedom. Why do we follow 4 regulative principles, right? In the Hare Krishna movement, we have 4 principles that we follow. No meat eating, no illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling. Why do we follow those things? Because it will liberate you. It will give you freedom. Actually, you feel happier when you follow those things, right? Human beings think it's the opposite. Yeah, I know a couple of times I've done presentations to groups and, we said, we don't eat meat, we don't have illicit sex, we don't have intoxication, we don't gamble. And 2 times people said to me, what do you do? And what do you do then?
my dad said that. What do you do for fun?
Yeah, what do you do? What do you actually do then? So actually, if we don't do those things, it will lead us to freedom because those things actually bind the soul to this body and to this material world. So therefore, Prabhupada says that we need to regulate ourselves. And if we regulate ourselves, then we will go to a higher state of consciousness. In the second paragraph, Prabhupada says, intelligent men know well that both good and bad works equally bind one to the material miseries. Consequently, they seek that work that will free them from the reactions of both good and bad work. So, good and bad work. This is a concept which is spoken of in the Bhagavad Gita. Different types of karma. Karma means activity. So in the Bhagavad Gita, there are 3 types of karma. What are the 3 karmas that we hear about? Karma, vikarma, and akarma. Yeah, so those 3. Vikarma, akarma, and karma. So we say the first one is vikarma. Vikarma means negative activities. Activities which take you backward in life, which deteriorate your consciousness. This is called vikarma. Yeah, we all know. Those are meat eating, illicit sex, intoxication, gambling. That's vikarma. Then there is karma. Karma means activities which are sanctioned. Now, you're allowed to do this. So you can, get married, you can have sex life within marriage, right? For the purpose of procreating the child, right? So that is the karma. That is activity. That will purify the consciousness. But then Krishna speaks of the third type of karma in the Bhagavad Gita, that is akarma. Akarma means no reactions. You won't get any reaction. That's the type of activity we want to perform. We're doing activity, but there's no karma coming back to us to bind us in the material world. Krishna speaks about this in the Bhagavad Gita. He says, karma bandhana.
It's interesting how you hear people describe karma as an accrued reaction that, like say, I'm working off my karma or something.
Yeah.
So that's from previous, just what we're talking about now seems like it's in a present tense sort of thing. Like work, you can either work now and that's karma, but also I've heard karma described as a reaction.
Yeah. Yeah, so we do use the word in both contexts, action and reaction.
Yeah.
Because your actions are creating the reactions in the future. And your reactions are coming upon you now in this life. So yeah, we can use them in both contexts. But we're interested in akarma, because that makes you escape from karma bandhana. Karma bandhana means bondage of action. Actions bind you to this world. If you do materialistic actions, you get bound to this world. If you do spiritual activity, you get liberated from this world. So that's akarma. Akarma means bhakti yoga or devotional service. That's our understanding. So then in the third paragraph, Srila Prabhupada says, in Bhagavad Gita 3:9-16 is where Krishna speaks about, what's the chapter 3 called of Bhagavad Gita? Karma Yoga. Yeah, very good. So it's the chapter about activity, how to work, but do your work in a way that liberates you or raises your consciousness. So in Bhagavad Gita 3:9-16, Krishna says, the one cannot attain the state of Naishkama or Akama without executing the prescribed duties mentioned in Vedic literatures. The Vedas can regulate the working energy of a human being in such a way that one can gradually realize the authority of the Supreme Being. So Prabhupada uses another term in this paragraph. He used the word Naishkama, which is it's an interesting term. When you study the Bhagavad Gita, in the Bhagavad Gita, there's a yoga ladder, which, different rungs, which people come up on. The one rung is called Sakama Karma Yoga. Sakama means with desire. Karma Yoga. You're doing Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga technically means you dedicate your activities to God. That's Karma Yoga. Right? Sakama Karma Yoga means I have desires. So I do what I want to do, but I dedicate it to God, which is good. That's good. It's a good practice. I like to, I'll just think of an example. I like to say build things for Krishna. I like to build things. This is just an example. I like to work in that way, but I'll do that for Krishna. So that's sakama, my desire, but I'll do it for Krishna. Nishkama or Naishkama Karma Yoga is a rung higher. Naishkama means without desire. So it's when you let go of your personal desires and you just do whatever Krishna wants, right? Whatever the guru instructs you, right? Go and do this. Well, that's not particularly what I want to do. It doesn't matter. Krishna wants you to do it. Do it. Right? That's Naishkama Karma Yoga. It's a higher level. And that leads to pure devotional service, where we're willing to do whatever the guru asks us to do, whatever Krishna wants us to do. That's called Naishkama Karma Yoga.
Arjuna on the battlefield.
Yeah.
Krishna says you perform your duty and go and fight because, if you don't fight, what's the point of it?
Yeah.
Even though you didn't want to.
Yeah. Yeah. So it means that the basic principle of Naishkama Karma Yoga is putting higher desires or the desires of your preceptors or your guides above your own desires. So it's a higher level. So Prabhupada uses this term in this section. So then in the fourth paragraph, Prabhupada says, factually, no one has to do anything more than render devotional service to the Lord. However, in the lower stages of life, one cannot immediately adopt the activities of devotional service, nor can one completely stop fruitive work. So it's an interesting statement that Prabhupada makes there. Yeah, in the beginning of the fourth paragraph. No one has to do anything other than render devotional service. However, in the lower stages, one cannot immediately adopt the activities of devotional service. No one can completely stop fruitive work. So basically what Krishna is pointing out in the Bhagavad Gita, you see this in chapter 12. Krishna says, if you can't do this, do this. If you can't do that, do that. If you can't do that, do that. He kind of like lowers the bar because he knows we can't all surrender, right? You can't all fully give. And at the end, Krishna basically says, if you can't do anything else, just be altruistic. It means just go and do something for people. Go and open a hospital or, work on a hospital or, do something selfless. I used to always say, when we used to do book distribution, we used to distribute Prabhupada's books on the streets. So many, because we'd always have a lead question. We'd always say to people that walk down the street, say, excuse me, are you from Melbourne or out of town? It's a qualifying question because they've got to say. So if they say I'm from Melbourne, you say, oh, great, you get one of these. If they say I'm from out of town, you say, great, you get one of these. So either way, there's a way. So it struck me over the years how many nurses would stop. You say, excuse me, immediately they would stop. They say, oh, do you need something? Because they're altruistic. They're thinking outside of themselves. It's not devotional service. It's not service to Krishna per se, but it creates a favorable environment for you to render service to Krishna. Right? It's a good stepping stone. It's a good place. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, if you can't do anything else, just be a nurse. Right? He doesn't actually say that, but he says, if you can't do anything else, at least do something for other people, because that will help you begin to elevate your consciousness. Right? And then he says, okay, if you can't do that, then do fruitive work. If you can't do that, study. If you can't do that, offer things to me. If you can't do, and then he goes higher. And at the very topmost thing, he says, just give everything to me. So these are the different platforms which Krishna speaks about. When we go to the fifth paragraph, Prabhupada says, Bhagavad Gita 240 states that God-centered activities are so valuable that just a few of them can save a person from the greatest danger. So Prabhupada quotes the Bhagavad Gita 240. Nehabhikrama nashosti prachavayo na vichite swalpamapyasya dhamasya trayate mahato bayat. Mahabhaya. And there's a famous shloka. And Prabhupada's purport is famous. Mahabhaya, what does that mean in Sanskrit?
Great, something.
Yeah, greatest fear. Yeah, Mahabhaya. Yeah, great Bhaya, fear. Prabhupada's name is Abhaya, no fear. Abhaya Charanaravinda, no fear at the lotus feet of Krishna. So Bhaya means fear. Mahabhaya means the greatest fear. So what is the greatest fear that we're taught in the Bhagavad Gita?
Go down to the animal species.
Yeah, to lose the human form of life, right? That's, be careful. You don't want to do that. I remember years ago we got here. I think it was even before you got here. So I think it was like 2008. Yeah, you came 2008. So it was like 2007. So it was just me and Veda, and I think Jace. that was all who were here, and we did a Sunday feast. It was like 2008, and 2 people came. Or I think 3. I think it was a couple and their daughter. So that was like, that was our Sunday feast back in 2007. Now, fortunately, more people come than back then. So, yeah, the good old days. So I was doing the Sunday feast and there was only 3 people there. And Veda was cooking the feast by herself. It wasn't a feast, it was like a meal. So she was in the kitchen cooking. I was giving a lecture to these people, 3 people. And I said to them, I was making some philosophical point, and I said, if you could choose any, I think I was talking about this falling back into lower species. And I said, so what would you choose? If you did have to go back, what would you be? And the lady said, oh, I would like to be a mouse because I can just sit in the corner quietly and watch people. And I said, oh, okay. And then I said to the next, I think the daughter, I said, what do you want to be? And she said, oh, cat. And she said, I'd like to be an eagle. I can just fly and soar and I can just float on the air currents and for the freedom. And I said to the man, what would you like to be? And I think he said a tiger, because no one will dominate him. He is the dominant personality in the animal kingdom.
Would be a dragon.
Yeah. So if you had been there, I would have asked you, what would you like to be? So I was asking, but then I pointed out to all of them, actually all 3 of those situations is fearful, right? It's not a pleasant situation to be any of those 3 situations because everyone has predators. Everyone's continuously worried. Everyone's anxious. The animal kingdom is not peaceful, right? It's like living in a war zone. Like, if we were living in Ukraine today, it's not peaceful. To be in any of those species of life, it's not peaceful. Everyone's trying to kill you. Right? It's just continuous. So that's the nature of this material world. So you don't want to go back to becoming an animal. That's what Krishna points out in the Bhagavad Gita. In the 6th paragraph, Prabhupada says, when altruistic activities are executed in the spirit of Isopanisad, they become a form of karma yoga. So that is the secret of Krishna consciousness. Krishna mentions this in the Bhagavad Gita. He says, whatever you do, whatever you give away, whatever austerities you perform, whatever sacrifices you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering unto me. Right? That is Krishna consciousness. Basically, all we have to do is whatever we're doing in this world, you offer it to Krishna. That's all. Then you become purified. Right? We have to offer things to Krishna. That's all. So, what's it? Ishavasya. Yeah, the Ishavasya principle. Yeah, so we have to learn to offer things to Krishna. That's all. Don't be greedy. People are greedy in this world. They want to enjoy the bhoga. They want to eat the food before it's offered to Krishna. That's what everyone does in the material world. Let's just eat it before it's offered to Krishna. In our tradition, we offer the food first to Krishna, then we take it. And if you do that, that's devotional service. That liberates you from this material world. Then the main point of the entire verse is that we need to perform our karma. We need to perform activities which elevate our consciousness. We need to perform activities which are meant for Krishna's service. And in this way, we become purified from the cycle of birth and death. As the verse says, one may aspire to live for hundreds of years if he continuously goes on working in that way. For that sort of work will not bind him to the law of karma. There is no alternative to this way for man.
So he's talking about a karma there.
Yeah. Yeah, a karma. It's interesting because it says that if you're working like this, you can stay in this world for hundreds of years. Prabhupada's guru, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, said, there's nothing lacking in this world except Krishna consciousness. So you can stay in this world even. It's good if you use it for Krishna.
In the same body.
Well, in a previous yuga, you could live for hundreds of years. When this was written, you could live for hundreds of years. Now it would be more challenging to live for hundreds of years. Previously, people lived, but now it's more difficult. Yeah, Prabhupada said there was some yogis. He went to the Kumbh Mela. Was it 77 he went? Or 76? Or Prabhupada went to the Kumbh Mela. He said there's yogis there that are 400 years old. Yeah, some of the yogis. Prabhupada said they are 400 years old. Okay, so mantra 3. Asurya namate loka andena tamasa vritaha tamste petya bigachanti yeke chatma anojanaha. The killer of the soul, whoever he may be, must enter into the planets known as the worlds of the faithless, full of darkness and ignorance. So this is quite a famous verse, actually, quite well known. Prabhupada opens the first paragraph. He says, a human life is distinguished from animal life due to its heavy responsibilities. Those who are cognizant of these responsibilities and who work in that spirit are called suras. Suras, godly persons, always aim at the lotus feet of Krishna and act accordingly. Their ways are as illuminated as the path of the sun. So the Bhagavad Gita, the Isopanisad, they're teaching us that the human form of life is a heavy responsibility. We were explaining this yesterday in the class to the devotees. The word guru means heavy. Lakhu means light. Light. Guru means heavy. It says if you drink milk, it is lakhu, light. It says if you eat rice, it is lakhu, right, light. But if you mix rice and milk together, that is called sweet rice, kheer, and said that is guru, that is heavy. Milk is easy to digest. Rice is easy to digest, but sweet rice, that takes work. That is work. And we've all done it. We've all had plenty of sweet rice. I remember one time I was in Jagannath Puri in India, one of our holy places, and we had a program at a life member's house. Radha Charan Prabhu organized it. It was a lot of devotees, at least 40 devotees, maybe more. And we walked down the beach they did a Harinam down the beach, about a kilometre from where we're staying to the life member's house. And I still had rounds to chant. So I was chanting my japa. I came late behind the devotees. They were a few hundred meters in front of me. So they got to the house and the life member was there. And he had huge pots, clay pots, about this big, of sweet rice from the Sringadev temple. And he took us out the back of his house and he had a small Goshala, beautiful cows, like godly cows. These cows were beautiful. And all the milk from his cows goes to the Nrsimha temple. And he had the Mahaprasad, sweet rice, a big pots like this, clay pots. And this sweet rice was like nectar. It was, honestly, it was heavenly. It was like Amrita. So the devotees came and he wouldn't let, this is before the program started, we're going to do kirtan class and there was a feast afterwards. He wouldn't let anyone into the house until they had some sweet rice. So everyone had a cup, and then he let them in and then I was the last one to get there because I was chanting my japa and everyone else was in. Last devotee's just going in. He turns around and he said, make sure Keshava finishes it. So I walk up and I'm like, what's going on? He goes, and so he's very enthusiastic. So he made me have 5 cups. So like probably about big as my hand, like that, a cup. He wouldn't let me in the house until I had 5 cups. And I was only 24 and I was, I've got like a voracious appetite. Even now, I eat a lot. But back then, and I just 5 cups before I got in the house. And then before we did the program, and then we had a big feast afterwards. And I woke up the next day and I felt fine. I felt fine because this was like transcendental prasad. But sweet rice is heavy.
Dal didn't have that experience at
Brindakund.
Brindakund.
We all had 6 or 7 cups. Yeah, another time we're at Brindakund in Brindavan, similar thing happened. They kept feeding us sweet rice during the feast, and we had about 7, 8 cups each. And next day, Dal. I went in the room. It was black. It was dark. And he's just laying there. I could hear him going, oh. Dal was just in the corner going, oh.
Getting purified.
He was laying down chanting japa. Just laying on his bed in the dark going, oh. It was very funny. Yeah. So the point is that guru means heavy. And sweet rice is heavy. And this human form of life is a big responsibility. Don't misuse it. So many of the humans, they're misusing their human form. And then because they're misusing it, what will they become? We don't know. They'll become animals. Yeah. They'll go down to a lower species. So Isopanisad, Bhagavad Gita, the Vedic teachings, they teach us, do not misuse the human form of life. Use it to become Krishna conscious. That is the goal, right? We're not to misuse this heavy responsibility, as Prabhupada says. In the second paragraph, it says, if with all these facilities, a person does not fully utilize his life for self-realization, he must be considered Atmaha, or killer of the soul. Atmaha is an important phrase. I remember when I first heard this phrase many years ago, Atmaha. You're killing your own soul, right? It's like killing an animal. Like none of us would do that because we've become more elevated in consciousness now. Right? We wouldn't do that. So Atmaha means someone who is killing the soul. So inflicting violence on yourself, right? Destroying your own opportunity to become Krishna conscious, destroying your own opportunity to take advantage of the human form of life, to become self-realized, to become Krishna conscious. It means you're killing your soul. But so many people in this material world, they're killing their soul. Right? They're misusing the human form of life. So they're called Atmaha. In the third paragraph, it says, actually, in the second paragraph, Prabhupada makes a subsidiary point. He says, the killer of the soul is destined to enter the darkest region of ignorance to suffer perpetually. Very heavy statement, right? You will enter the darkest region of ignorance. On this planet, there are dark regions, dark places. You know, has anyone been to Africa? Yeah, Tuli's been. You've been? Yeah, which place?
Egypt and Morocco.
Egypt and Morocco. Yeah. So you didn't go into the deep dark. No, into Nigeria and the deep dark. Yeah, I haven't been to Nigeria either, but some of my friends went. I went to Botswana. Oh, not Botswana. Tanzania, Zambia, and Kenya. That was dark enough. That was dark enough. Like, dark places, heavy places. And some of my friends went to Nigeria and places like that. They said it's very heavy. On this earth, there are dark places. You know, maybe some of you have seen it. You've been to places which are dark. You know, where the people are dark. Yeah, you guys have been. You know, Gizzy and
No, LA.
oh, LA. Yeah,
Downtown LA, man. Just like hell.
yeah,
Literally like hell.
yeah. And now it's gone to another level since you were there.
Probably. Yeah.
No, it has. I mean, yeah, when you look at it, it's bad. It's bad. Now it's,
Oh, when I was there.
yeah. Yeah, so we've been there. Like, I've seen it. I've seen the desperation in the people's eyes. You know, I was walking down the street in, I think it was Harare, I think in Tanzania. Walking down the street, Zambia, I think it was. And, you know, broad daylight, thousands of people, street is packed, as it normally is there. And, you know, a man was in front of me, this far in front, and he turned around on the spot, and I felt his hands go all over me, you know, looking for something to steal. And then, you know, I said, you know, and then he went like that. And I saw the desperation in his eyes, and it was like, you know, if he had a knife or something, he might have just gone boom, right on the spot, and he ran off into the crowd. You know, it was dangerous, you know. So these places exist on this planet. And this isn't even the worst of it. There are planets beyond this planet where the suffering is more intense. So you can go there. The Vedas are saying if you don't use your human form properly, you can go to these places. You can be born in these places and you will suffer. You know, where the suffering is just continuous and very severe.
So you mean the darkest region is an animal one? Yeah.
You could take it that way as well. Yeah, you could take it that way. Any of these situations are bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to be born in Africa in certain situation conditions would be horrible. To be born in an animal species would be horrible.
Mm.
Or to go to one of those hellish regions, one of those, that would be horrible.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, all of that is the darkest type of ignorance. So this is what Prabhupada is pointing out. This is what the Vedas are pointing out. Do not misuse your human form of life. I mean, none of you are doing that anyway, but we're just being warned. Sometimes it's an impetus for people. In paragraph 3, Prabhupada says, the human being is given all facilities for a comfortable life by the laws of nature, because the human being has higher duties to perform than animals, who are always engaged in simply feeding their hungry stomachs. So, as a human, we're meant to do more than eat, sleep, mate, and defend. Right? There's more to it. The humans are spoken of in this material society as being dvipada pashu. Dvipada pashu means two-legged animals. Right? We should not act like the animals, just eating, sleeping, mating, defending. We're meant to do more as human beings. So we're meant to understand higher principles. So that's what we're doing now. We're using our time to study Isopanisad, to study the Vedas, the Bhagavad Gita, and to elevate our consciousness to a higher level. because the animals cannot do that. You know, just outside there, we have Bronte. She can't understand what we're talking about, right? And more or less, what does she think about all day? You know, what can I eat? Right? You see, you know, whenever something deep fried comes out of the kitchen or something sweet comes out of the kitchen, she jumps up. You know, if you bring kitchery out of the kitchen, she doesn't move, but then as soon as something sweet or fried, just sits up immediately. You know? So it's not a very elevated form of consciousness. We should not be living on that level. Right? Sometimes as devotees, maybe we do live on that level a little bit. Right? We just all are thinking about what can I eat next? What can I eat next? But we should be more elevated than that in our consciousness. Paragraph 4, Prabhupada says, if a man fails to discharge his duties as a human being, he is forced to transmigrate to the Asura planets and take birth in degraded species of life to work hard in ignorance and darkness. So we're meant to be Surya, Suras. Sura means godly, demigods. We should act like demigods. What do demigods do? They obey Krishna. They obey, they're enjoyers, actually. They have strong enjoying spirit. Very hard not to in the facility they live in. It's so pleasant, so nice. It's hard not to be, but they all obey Krishna's teachings. They only eat prasadam and they do yagyas in the morning and they do service to Krishna. They run the universe on his behalf. So if you don't follow Krishna's teachings, you will become an asura. Asura means you will go to a lower state of consciousness.
Demonic.
Yeah, you go to a demonic place. The asuras actually, they live in opulent places as well, but they don't follow Krishna's rules and they just use everything for sense gratification, which, you know, you can do, but that will burn up after some time and then you'll be back in the cycle of karma once again. So it's not recommended that we act like that. Prabhupada says in the 5th paragraph, the person who fails to realize his relation with God is given a better chance to cultivate self-realization due to his sincere efforts in his previous lives. So Krishna mentions this in the Bhagavad Gita, that if you don't complete everything in this life, you can take up in the next life once again, which is possible. We can also do that. Right? If we don't finish in this life, we can take up again. We will take up again. Right? But we don't want to do that. It's not a terribly good deal because you don't know what the situation will be next time round. We're already seeing how bad it is in this world. You don't really want to come back. I mean, imagine being born in 2050 or 2060.
Where?
Anywhere. Imagine being born 2060, Melbourne, Australia. Right? It wouldn't be great, you know, compared to going back to the spiritual world at the end of this life. Prabhupada's guru, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he said, I expect all of my disciples to go back to Godhead in this lifetime. Right? And Prabhupada actually said that too. Prabhupada said, if you follow the 4 regulative principles and chant 16 rounds a day, you will go back to Godhead at the end of this life. And that's quite a high standard in Kali Yuga. So if people can do that, then Prabhupada said he can take us back to the spiritual world. In the 6th paragraph, Prabhupada says, as human beings, we are not meant for simply solving economic problems on a tottering platform, but for solving all the problems of the material life into which we have been placed by the laws of nature. Prabhupada writes it very beautifully there. We're not meant to simply solve economic platform problems on a tottering platform. Tottering means like this, right?
Tangible.
Yeah, always moving. Or Govinda Das, the great poet, he says in his Bhajan Bhajahu Re Mana, Sri Nanda Nandana, Abhaya Charanara Vinda Re. There's a beautiful bhajan that he wrote. He said, life is like a drop of water on a lotus petal. Right? Sometimes you see on the lotuses or on any of the plants, you see there's like one drop of water just on the end of the leaf. That can drop at any time. Right? Anytime that will go. So our life is like that. It can finish at any time. So we shouldn't waste time because at any time it can finish. So you want to be absorbed in devotion. So, as Prabhupada says, you don't want to spend your time trying to solve economic problems. You know, if that's your life, I'm just trying to solve economic problems, then, you know, that's not what life is for. You know, and then you listen to the radio. I was listening to the radio a bit today.
Why?
Why?
Yeah, why?
Because sometimes, you know, once a week, like when I'm driving back from Melbourne, then I turn just to see where everything's up to,
Yeah,
you know, something.
checking in.
Yeah, checking in like that, just keeping tabs on, you know, where it's all at. Right. And a lot of the time, that's what they talk about, solving economic problems in a tottering world. You know, how can you really solve the problems? You know, like a lot of what they're talking about at the moment is just the cost of living. I was just saying to Atuya the last couple of days, I got my, what do you call that? Car registration, was it? 1,000.
Insurance.
Oh, it was insurance, was it? Insurance. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the rego is a different thing. Insurance, $1,000 just came. And I thought to myself, it wasn't that much last time. I think last time it was 700 or something. And like 1,000, it just came out. And then you hear on the radio, everyone's ringing and saying, oh, we can't afford to live. And it's becoming more and more difficult, which is true all over the world. It's becoming like that. So we don't want to put all of our energy into just trying to solve economic problems. Right? You want to actually do something about this human form of life. Right? And actually go to the place where there are no insurances. And where there are no registration fees. There's nothing to register because it all belongs to Krishna. You just, you know, if you're in the spiritual world and someone says, "Who is this registered?" You say, "Yeah, it belongs to Krishna." And you say, "Is this insured?" You say, "Yes, it's insured by Krishna." Right? So it's a lot more simple up there. Yeah. So yeah, the cost of living is becoming a real problem.
I'm trying to solve it.
Yeah, don't spend all your energy trying to solve it. So Prabhupada's conclusion of this particular verse is, my notes are, a human life is distinguished from animal life due to its heavy responsibilities. Those who are cognizant of these responsibilities and who work in that spirit are called suras, godly persons. Suras always aim at the lotus feet of Krishna and act accordingly. Their ways are as illuminated as the path of the sun. So Prabhupada says, this is the goal of life. The goal of life is to live in such a way that we become more and more enlightened. And the way that the material world is, everyone's living in such a way, they're becoming more and more ignorant. And life is becoming more problematic. So that's verses 2 and 3. Next, for the next class, we will cover verses 4 to 8.
4 to 8.
Yeah, 4 to 8. 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. 5 verses. That's another section, which that section is discussing the inconceivable Lord can only be known by the Maha Bhagavata. That's the theme of that section. So those 5 verses. So our next class, your homework is to study verses 4 to 8 because they're all connected together.
By Mahabhagavat.
Yeah, the theme is the inconceivable Lord can only be known by the Maha Bhagavat. Mahabhagavat means a pure devotee or a very elevated devotee. Does anyone have any final questions or comments on anything that we've discussed? Okay. Thank you all for coming. Tomorrow is Baladev Purnima. So it means the appearance day of Krishna's brother, Balaram. So at the Melbourne Temple, they will have a big festival. And here at Hare Krishna Valley, we will have a small festival. So you're welcome to join in any of those locations, whatever is easy to you. I think probably in the western suburbs, at Wyndham, they may be having a festival there as well. So you're more than welcome to join us. If you are going to come, then please just let us know. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
God bless you all and your families.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Please come again.
Thank you.
Good to see you all.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
See you soon. Hare Bol.